I have two dates written on the screen. Can you tell me whether it's 6th of February or 2nd of June? Your answer will reveal whether you are thinking like an American or a European. And your Google Sheet might be thinking differently than you are. This single setting will control whether your dates makes any sense to your Google Sheets, whether your currency symbol is correct, whether your dates are formatted right, and whether your date means what you think it means. In the next few minutes, I will show you the one Google Sheet settings that you need to master that fixes all your date confusion, currency chaos, and formatting confusion all at once. Hi, my name is Ujjwal and you're watching Stupid Simple Tutorials, so let's get started. Let's start with the very basics so that you are crystal clear about whatever we are trying to do here, okay? So whenever you see a date, you already know this, that the date consists of three parts. First part is the day, the second part is the month, and the third part is the year, okay? But how we write it in different countries and region will depend on how we were taught these things in school. Let's say, for example, if you consider country specific formatting, in United Kingdom, the formatting is like day, month, and year. That means they are writing date as DD, MM, YY, YY. The day comes before the month. And if you go to United States, there is a different case there. They are formatting their dates like MM, DD, YY, YY, that is month, day, and year, where month is written before the day, okay? So it should be clear to your Google Sheet that how Google Sheet is going to interpret whatever you have written inside the cell, okay? Now this is all going to be crystal clear in just a moment. Let me go to the next section and show you what exactly I am talking about, okay? So what is a local setting? A local setting is a setting that will determine how your values are stored and interpreted by your Google Sheet. Now, for example, as you can see on the screen, this is something, let's say you wrote on your Google Sheet. As soon as you press enter, that means you commit the cell, what will happen in the backend is, let's say your local setting is set to UK. This value will be assumed as 2nd June 2025. And as I told you, any date has three containers, right? Three boxes. And all those three boxes, the day box will start containing 02, the month box will have 06, and the year box will have 2025. So you get the idea, depending on your locale setting, okay? And if your locale setting is set to US, at the same time you press enter when you wrote this date, what will happen is, it will be assumed as 6th of February 2025. The day container will contain 06, the month container will contain 02, and the year container will contain 2025. Now here is an important part here. So when you set the locale setting to some country or region, what happens is Google Sheet adapts itself to a certain type of formatting. You understand what formatting is, right? Representing things in certain way. Now, in UK, since the representation, as I already told you, is DD, MM, YY, YY, so when you enter a date and the local setting is set to UK, this formatting will be applied to that cell, respective cell, okay? But if you have set the local setting to US, the formatting that will be applied to that cell will be MMDD, YY, YY. I hope that is clear to you what I'm trying to say here, right? So, depending on the locale settings, the values will be stored and interpreted. One more important thing to understand here is when the value is stored and formatted, the moment you press enter, depending on the locale settings, even if you change the locale settings in the future, it will carry the same formatting. So don't think that once your Google Sheet is in UK format, you entered all the dates in UK format. Now, if you go to the locale setting and change it to US, what will happen is your formatting on those cells which you entered previously will still remain in UK format. So once the formatting is applied, it is not going to change depending on the local settings, because once you press enter, it is how it is stored and interpreted the moment you enter it based on the locale settings when you entered the value, okay? So this is something you need to understand and it will all be crystal clear in just a moment, okay? Now, what is formatting exactly? So in formatting, there is two types of formatting. That is, one is default formatting and the second one is custom formatting. Default formatting will depend on the locale settings of your Google Sheet, and custom formatting will depend on how you have set the formatting for that cell beforehand. Okay, I'll show you both the scenarios. You don't have to worry about it. So now this is something which was theory, and now we'll do hands-on practical on what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so let's move on to our Google Sheet. Okay, so this is our Google Sheet, and as I started this video, I told you that it is 0206, it is 0206. This currently is 2nd of June. Let me show you how. I'll go to File, I'll go to Settings, and as you can see here, settings for the spreadsheet, the locale setting is set to United Kingdom. We also have United States. We have different countries and regions based on whatever your preference is and whatever the kind of formatting you need to have for your date and region. Okay, but in this scenario, it is set to United Kingdom. So what will happen is, let me show you what is going to happen. So if I enter, let's say 02/06, and I press enter, it is going to take this as 2nd of June. Let me double click and show it this to you. Okay, this is going to take this as 2nd of June. Now, as you already know, my Google Sheet is currently understanding DDMMYYYY. So now you also know that we cannot put a month value more than 12, right? So what will happen in the scenario? Check this out. If I type here 02/14/2025 and I press enter, you see Google Sheet is not even assuming this as a date value. This, my friend, is really important. But on the other hand, I'll show you a different case scenario. If I go to File and then I go to Settings, I'll go to United Kingdom and change it to United States. Then I click on Save and Reload. And once I do that, what you will see here is I have 02/14/2025. Now this is already formatted as text. I told you, once the default formatting is applied, you will have to manually change it. Just changing the locale settings won't change the default formatting. Now this is formatted as text. This is not even formatted as a date. So what I'll do is I'll just click on it. I'll go to Format, I'll go to Numbers, and then I will click on the date icon. I'll click on it. And as you saw, now this is formatted as date. Now, what date is this? It is 14th of February 2025. When you double click, you will understand. Now, this date is the date I entered when the Google Sheet was on the United Kingdom locale settings. So do you think now this is 2nd of June, or has it changed to 6th of February? Tell me that. As I already told you, once the formatting is applied, even if you change the locale settings, it is not going to change. Now, if I double click here, as you can see, in this scenario, it is still 2nd of June because the formatting here applied is for the UK formatting, the United Kingdom formatting. Let me move forward and things will get even more clear for you. Okay, what I'll do is I'll select the whole column, deselect the header, I'll go to Format, and then I will go to Numbers, I'll go to Date, and then I'll go to Custom Formatting. Okay, I'll go to Custom Number Formatting, and in this, as you can see, this is DDMMYYYY, which is the UK formatting. I will apply this, and as you can see, the whole column now is having custom formatting applied to it. Make a note, it is having custom formatting applied to it. I'll now select this column, deselect the header, I'll go to Format, Numbers, and then I will do the same thing for this, but in this case, we will have MMDD. Okay, in this case, we have MMDD YYYY, which is the formatting for United States. Now, this column doesn't have any formatting. I'll just delete the whole thing. Okay, let's say I am going to randomly add dates in here. Now, remember, what is the locale settings for this Google Sheet? It is United States. Now, I'll just add a date here, which is, let's say, 02/06/2025. Now, this date, as per United States locale setting, is 6th of February 2025. I press enter, and it is added as it is. Now what will happen here is, now this whole column is formatted based on UK formatting, as I showed you, right? Now I double click, I'll write the same date again here, 02/06/2026, 2025. I'm just using the same example, you can use any. I'll just press enter. Before I press enter, now tell me what is going to happen here. The custom formatting is applied, but how it is going to interpret the data is dependent on the locale settings. Will it interpret as 2nd of June 2025? Or will it interpret as 6th of February 2025? If you understood it right, then if I press enter, you will see it is interpreted as 6th of February 2025. But the formatting applied here is UK formatting that we have already set. If you double click, you will understand it is interpreted as 6th of February because the Google Sheet which I'm using right now is following the locale setting of United States, where the default way of writing dates are MMDDYYYY. I hope you are getting immense value and understanding what I am trying to suggest here. Okay, so if you're already doing that, just hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Okay, so I'll move forward now. Now this is US formatting, MMDDYYYY. I'll type here 02/06/2025 and just press enter. And as you can see, the default formatting is not applied. It is applied our custom formatting, which we applied to the entire column. Okay, now let's move to the next concept, which is entering date and time. Now you're clear with how dates are assumed in Google Sheets. Now it is just an addition of how time are assumed in Google Sheets. Really easy to understand. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just go in an empty cell. Okay, and in this empty cell, what I'll do is I'll write here 02/06/2025. Then I'll give a space bar here and type here, let's say 13:34. It is 34 minutes past 1 p.m. Okay, but it doesn't matter if I press enter. And as you can see, this is having a date time entered inside. It is also right aligned, so you will understand that it is a number, but it is having a date time entered inside. Okay, but which date is this? The date is 6th of February. As you can see, it is 6th of February because it is following the US locale settings. Okay, now you understood how we enter dates, how dates are assumed in Google Sheets, and how this whole thing is working with dates. Okay, so you can change the date format also. I'll just go here, deselect the header, I'll go to format, numbers, and in the custom date and time formatting, I can change it to something like this. Click on apply, and as you can see, the whole formatting here is changed. Whatever you enter here, let's say I enter here 208/2025. I'll just press enter, and it's 8th of February 2025. Now let me enter a wrong value as per US formatting, and so you'll understand it better. What I will do is I'll enter 13/02/2025. If I think of this as a UK formatting, it is a correct date, right? It is 13th of February 2025. But if you consider the US formatting, it is a wrong entry. And if I press enter, it will be considered as a text because our Google Sheet is following US date formatting. Okay. Now you can change the locale settings and work around it. The best advice for you would be to always have one locale setting set for default, depending on what you are trying to enter, and then use that locale settings throughout your sheet, and then use the custom formatting features to make changes on how you want to display those dates, depending on your sheet submission or whatever your purpose is. Okay. Now I'll go to currency. Now this part is really important because now currency is not supposed to be assumed in certain ways, right? Currency doesn't have three different containers. It's a number with a sign, right? So when you are in a situation, you want to choose your locale settings, I would suggest you to choose it based on dates, because currency is something which you can change by formatting. Okay, so let's say I have this $sign here. Now as I already told you in the last video, I can enter a number here, 34 for example, and what I can do is I can just click on it, click on this $sign, and it is formatted as currency. But how about I change this currency? I just go to format, then I go to numbers, and then I go to custom currency. And as you can see, there are many currency options available here. I can type here, let's say British pound sterlings. If I click on it, I click on apply. And as you can see, the number remains the same, only the sign is changed. Okay. So currency is something which is not the criteria when you are choosing the locale settings. Depending on your requirement, I'll suggest you to give priority to your date formatting if you're choosing a locale settings. If you're not working on cross-country data or something like that, which is complex, I will suggest you to just stick with one formatting, one currency, which is by default given by your locale settings. Okay. So I hope the concept of the whole date confusion is cleared in Google Sheets. All you have to do is first understand how values are interpreted and stored based on the locale settings, the date and currency. These two are the only variables which I think are dependent on the locale settings. So if you are crystal clear on how these date formattings works, what locale settings to choose depending on your Google Sheets and your requirements, hit that like button. Also subscribe to this channel. Comment down any doubts you have. I will also suggest you to rewatch this video if you are a complete beginner, because this is a tricky concept. It's a confusing concept, but once you master it, it will be on your fingertips and you will become a pro in predicting what your Google Sheets are doing, what your Google Sheets are understanding, and that will lay a very profound foundation for future complex formulas. All right. I hope this video was helpful. Keep watching and supporting this channel. I'll see you in the next one.